Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkie and Drury. No Clarkie for the next couple weeks. This guy's on vacation. Needed a break from me. So we decided we'd bring in our good buddy Steve Sabourin. And Steve's here for a very good reason. Now, listen, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff today, okay? We're going to address what went on between Team Canada's women and the United States. Obviously, a disappointing day for Canadian hockey fans, all right? We're going to dig into that. And we're going to talk a little bit about the ongoing men's Olympic tournament. We're going to touch on all that stuff. But for now, we're going to start the show. And Steve's here for this reason in particular. I got the gear on. Mr. Sabourin made it official last week that this will be the final season of OHA hockey on CKNX after 21 seasons. Mr. Sabourin, you've been there right from the beginning on CKNX Jr Hockey. And obviously, Scott Pettigrew got it off the ground back in the day. And what a ride it's been. You put an open letter out on the CKNX website. You can see that if you go to the CKNX AIM 920 site and go to features and click on OHA hockey, you can read the letter. What a ride, man. What kind of brought this decision on after 21 seasons?
Well, first of all, great gear. Love the hat. Yeah, it's one of those things where life changes. And, it's you look at the dynamics of how it all started 21 years ago and where it's going. And I think there's still opportunity there. It just will be an opportunity without me in the process. It has certainly been a ride, and interesting enough, you've been involved with a large chunk of it over the last several years, which has been amazing. We've put a lot of miles on, I think. But yeah, it was, how you get to a point where you say to yourself, is the best possible product that we can be doing right now? Am I fully engaged in this? And with personal circumstances the way they are, the answer is no. And I would rather step away on a high note as opposed to trying to keep it going and having a subpar product.
Makes complete sense. I mean, that's the thing. It's amazing the last number of days. I was literally at the grocery store yesterday, and I had no fewer than 3 people come up to me and go, "Is it true that the hockey, Steve's not doing it anymore?" I was like, "Yeah, it's it," and that's the thing that I told everybody that's asked me. I've had a lot of people message me and just ask, and yeah, that's what I've told them. It's just a thing where life changes, and it's been an unbelievable run for yourself. And I wonder, maybe if it wouldn't be a good idea. I know we've touched on this before, and we've done a lot of different programs and talked about it on the OHA this week, the pregame show and everything. Take people back to how this all got started, because at the time in 2005 when this kind of got off the ground, it was something that not a lot of competitors around the area were doing or even thinking about trying. And your former boss and mentor, Scott Pettigrew, kind of, had an idea to try something a little unique.
Yeah, and it really started in the spring of '04 when the Wingham Ironmen made their way up until the Schmaltz Cup finals and played Grimsby. And of course, that's huge for a town like Wingham. And they couldn't fit everybody in the rink. So how do you provide, an opportunity for people to be at the game without actually being at the game? And that's to provide commentary, set up a screen in the Knights Hall there, and then provide some commentary for the play. So that translated to '05. So I arrived in the station of fall '04 after that endeavor. And then part of my hiring was, hey, can we get this up on the ground? And we started with the Listowel Cyclones playoffs in '05. They were extreme underdogs coming in as a 7th seed, and were able to knock off number 2, number 1, and then I believe it was number 5, Owen Sound. So we just followed it from there. Unfortunately, Listowel got knocked out in the Sutherland Cup round robin, and that kind of ended their run. And then in the fall of 05, that's when we started to do regular season games. So, and then it just took off. So the idea behind it was, hey, we have a service that we can use. We have the people that can do it. How do we bring local hockey to people who just can't get to the rink? Whether it be they're on the road or they're stuck at home or they're whatever at work, whatever the case may be, and a game a week leading up to the playoffs, and then away you go from there.
It's amazing, the legacy of it all and the amount of people that, and we're into playoff time here in junior C, and we're going to touch on that before we, transition to talking about the Olympics and all that after a little more delving into some memories here. We'll touch on that, but it's amazing, the amount of people that have already kind of reached out and been asking questions like at the grocery store and whatever. And we're going to run into a bunch of people at the rinks that have a bunch of questions, I'm sure, but it's amazing, in my time on the broadcast, I started at CKNX in November of 2015 and pretty quickly became involved with the hockey side of things. Like you really took me under your wing. And, when you look back at all the miles that you've put on and all the different storylines you've been able to follow, again, I'd encourage people to read the letter that Steve posted on the website. Like you got to be a part of, and see up close and personal and have your voice on a lot of incredible memories and storylines in the local junior hockey circuit.
Yeah, it's been amazing. And when you step back and look at everything that has happened um, at this level, both at what is now the GOHL and the PGHL. It all started with the Kincardine Bulldogs back-to-back seasons as what was the Western Junior C League champions facing Penetang. And then it grew from there. Walkerton coming back into the league and, a decade of amazing hockey. An incredible run by them. The Wingham Ironmen, and put an asterisk beside this. Like, how often do you get to see a player do what Aaron Armstrong did and still holds the record? Now, with that being said, Drew Davidson of the Walkerton Hawks was right behind him that season. If there was no Aaron Armstrong, there was Drew Davidson. So, and those two score up in the finals in 2014. Like, two of the best players that I've seen for sure at that level, of course. And then Mount Forest coming back and creating something. Hanover winning the Schmaltz Cup last year, and now we get to see Fergus win a division. Like coming in as a brand new team. And I talked to Jason Byer the other day and congratulate him on his team's win, and because they did it, 13-game win streak, came back, overtook Hanover on the last weekend of the regular season, won 4 in a row, and clinched the division championship. So, a lot of work they want to complete, but that's that's a stepping stone. But you look at there's a ton more stories in there from the junior C level, and then you look at the GOHL and just the amazing run that the Listowel Cyclones have had as a community with that team, and just year after year how they can put a competitive product on the ice, and they're not afraid to rebuild. Like, junior hockey goes in cycles, and they've created a program where they can collect a number of players that are starting out their junior career and grow them over 4 years. And the last few cycles has resulted in a provincial championship. So it's been an amazing storytelling experience.
It really has. And, I think for a lot of people, not only being able to kind of catch the games and, hear their family members' names being said on the radio in a competitive environment, and the amount of people like every spring, especially when playoffs kick off, and you're mixing in away fans that, whose teams that we don't cover, throughout the season. Then all of a sudden you're in the playoffs against the Aurelias of the world and Penetang and Alliston, all the run-ins with Alliston over the years, and Fort Erie. Like, go down the list of teams that we've been able to see and experience. The amount of, emails and support and people emailing us that they're listening on vacation in Mexico, or like they're on a cruise ship and they're on the deck and they're listening to CKNX AM 920, because their grandson's playing or whatever, right? Like it's incredible. And I think one of the things that has been my favorite thing to look back on, because again, like you said, I've been lucky enough to be a part of it for, over a decade now, is the amount of times that we go on the road somewhere, Sabby, and people are like, we think it's so cool you guys are doing this. We wish someone around here did it for our team. I mean, we heard that 100,000 times last year, even just following Hanover to Napanee and Aurelia, like people being like, we can listen on the radio, and thanks so much for doing this. Like, that's something that will always stick with me. The amount of people that, like, you saw it all through the year covering the teams that we do, but then we'd go on the road somewhere and people be like, man, I wish we had something like that around here. Just an incredible impact that the program's been able to have.
No, and not only that, but when you look at players that play in the area that are from outside the area, and they have family back from wherever they are, and they're able to tune into a regular season game to listen to their grandson, play on a Friday night or during a playoff game. It's just, something that I think um, provides a lot of excitement, connection, and you can be there without physically being in the arena. I will say, I know I talked to some people, and throughout seasons, you're like, okay, is this making an impact? Does it hold water, especially in the day and age of technology when you can go to Flow Hockey or whatever the case may be. And yes, it does, because there's something about being at the, listening to the radio, whether you're streaming it or terrestrial radio, that just, I don't know, adds to the culture and the excitement of what's going on.
100%. And I think that that's true of a lot of what we've taken in as sports fans. Like radio, it's just, no matter what the delivery method is technology wise, it's always going to be a part of sports. It's one unique thing about live sports, is like you need to be able to have that type of avenue to at least be able to hear what's going on. And yeah, I'm floored by the amount of times that we've had people come up to us and, thank us for doing it. And yeah, you mentioned all the guys over the years that, like I think of a guy like Caleb Cameron, who's, living down in Georgia now. And he was, for many people, one of the best, and remains one of the best listable Cyclones of all time. And Holden Lansing ended up breaking his scoring record, but, even him, like, he'll message me sometimes still and be like, I was listening to you guys, Cyclones are in the playoffs. And I know he was tuned in during the most recent Sutherland Cup run. And like the players, I think, are at the heart of this. Like, we wanted to make it, and I know when you and Scott started it, wanted to make it a great product that reflected well on the players and their accomplishments on the ice, because ultimately that's what we're there to cover. And it's amazing the amount of guys that I still run into, around all the time that message us and are like, hey, I'm listening, and it's great to hear the team's doing well. And like, that's an incredible thing to have been a part of so many of those young men's stories.
Yeah, and that's again, providing an opportunity that they can actually go back and listen to that replay that, oh my gosh, hey, they score a big goal, there's a big save, or whatever the case may be, but being able to provide a record of fact of what actually happened. And I mean, because when you look at those teams that come out as, right to the top, Ryan, um, it takes a real special group to get there. And if anything that the last 7 years have taught me is you look at back at those teams, Hanover last year, the two Southern Cup winners in Listowel, you look at how tight that team was, how focused that team was, how deep that team was, all of them. It's a pretty special accomplishment that, of course, doesn't happen all the time for people. So it's nice to have that look back, that kind of reliving the experience, and like as you know too, those teams stick together through the years and reminisce and talk about it, and it's nice to have something from an audio standpoint that provides a, hey, let's go listen back to this, remember when.
Yeah, and it's cool to have been able to put a lot of that stuff together. Like, I still think back to, some of my favorite times. I mean, covering all the teams and all the players has been a pleasure. Like, we've been able to be along for the ride for a lot of incredible young men's careers when we look back on it and consider all the different guys we've been able to see in the coaches too, and like all the teams have been first class, to deal with over the years too. And it's amazing, like thinking back on like, that first Listowel Sutherland Cup team and, the little audio project we were able to kind of put together for those guys. And like, I can't not see Caleb Warren, who was such a heartbeat of that team, and him not bring that up. Like, he's like, I watch it like once a month. I'm like, yeah, you should watch it once a month. It was an amazing accomplishment for easily one of the smallest, if not the smallest centers in the GOHL to accomplish something like that. And then they did it again in 23-24, and the Hanover run last year and all those great Mount Forest teams. And I mean, there's just so many guys that we've been able to cover, and it's just been a really incredible ride to be around for some really, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say historically significant moments in our area.
Yeah, and to expand on that, the people and the players that we met outside of this the local area too.
Yeah.
When you look at, you meet the Darren Shannons of the world, through Alliston. You met some neat teams through the GOHL, and some great hockey minds, some great players. Um, Played for Kitchener, got a season of him. And there's a number of other players that have gone through the GOHL that we had we're lucky to talk about. And at the end of the day, it's a story about community. It's a story about the people who work together to create a winning atmosphere, and to see the younger kids who are at the rink and pumping fists with the players, asking for a signature here or there, but providing kids an opportunity to see what there is down the road. Because let's face it, not all of us can get to a pro level game all the time. These games are very accessible. You can get to the rink every Friday, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, whatever, and enjoy. And the game itself, Ryan, has improved so much over 21 years. Like, you look at the way it's played, the ability of the players. Teams, I would argue now, are much better. You just see some of the skill set, and it's amazing to watch. So The unfortunate thing is we did lose a year under COVID, and there are some guys that didn't get to play their last overage year in that segment of history. But overall, it's been quite the enjoyment to see. The other thing I will say too is anybody who is out there looking to travel, whether it be provincially, nationally, or internationally, doesn't mean you have to call pro sports to get there. There's other avenues to do what you want to do, and still get, I think, a lot of gratification and a lot of gratification of sharing those stories.
100%. I agree. And, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about, a number of people that made sure that this product was as good as it was. I mean, we were the guys that showed up and plugged mics in and had a good time calling games, but there were a lot of people behind the scenes, again, that you detailed in your letter, that really helped make this happen. And I mean, I think you can take it from here, but I think we'd be remiss not to start that conversation by not mentioning our good friend, Bill Brown.
Yeah, and Bill was integral, of course, being in the sales department to bring on partners to help this program. I mean, he was a passionate hockey guy, coach, GM. He through the years was a member of a lot of organizations. He also helped us out on the broadcast. He was definitely a character and provided a lot of hockey knowledge for sure, and knew a lot of people. I mean, and him and his good friendship with Louis Livingston, of course, was always, if you saw Bill at the rink, Louis wasn't far behind, and vice versa. But him and Scott paired up and created the 1-2 punch that kicked off this whole thing. And I mean, nobody does anything alone. I don't care how good you are, you don't do it alone. And there's been a plethora of people in not only in CKNX, but around the hockey world that helped this product tick. That includes Scott Bridge, who took over for Pettigrew after Scott left. Bridgie stepped in for several years. Of course, Johnny K, currently on, in and out of the lineup. Corey Dietz, who coached the Mitchell Hawks, also lended his broadcast expertise. Corey Hamilton. So we've had a number of people step in and help, and the behind the scenes people at the station have been amazing. I don't think there's any tears of not doing another playoff run after this year. The mechanics behind the station about knowing if you're going to play a 5, 6, 7 at the last moment certainly throws a wrench into stuff, because there is some planning involved, but those people help keep everything going.
Yeah, I mean, you go down the list, like our engineer, Rob Enders, incomparable, just making sure we had the best stuff and really improving our signal too, getting us those mobile internet units, and Tanya Murner, of course, helping out with sales, making sure that we were always well supported and well represented throughout the communities in terms of businesses that wanted to be involved. And, JK and Scotty, who I've, had the pleasure of calling a number of events with too, and just Jeff Irwin, our GM, believing in the product, keeping it going all these years, paying us a lot of money and during deep playoff runs too. Like, a lot of support, on top of, the great relationship that we have with all the teams, which I know that they're all, very thankful for. And, we were just thankful to be there. I think too, like, it was such a big part of me getting my career off the ground. Like, I've got a Guelph Storm flag behind me here because I host a podcast for the team, and I've become the voice of that team. And I never would have been able to do that if you hadn't had some belief in me and taken me on as a 20-something nobody fresh out of college and gave me all those reps. Like, I wouldn't have the career I have without OHA hockey. Like, you produced an OHL broadcaster, man. Like,
you would have gotten there. But I mean, it definitely helps when you're able to get behind the mic and start telling stories from there. I will say, like, going to the rink is nice to zone out from what's happening in other aspects of our world. It's 2 hours that we can take and just have a lot of fun. I think last year during the Schmaltz Cup run, when we were able to team up with Adam Olivero and do like the full blown radio TV coverage, and just seeing the pictures of there we are missing JK with
there we are.
Yeah, but I mean, that run added such a different dynamic. And I remember JK standing beside me and he's pulling up pictures on his Instagram feed of buddies who are at home with it on the TV and they got a couple of drinks and a bowl of popcorn and just watching the broadcast. I mean, that was pretty cool to have just about the complete package. And Adam did a heck of a job providing the video and the graphics, and we were able to keep things going on the audio side.
100%. Yeah, there we are with producer Adam, of course, who produced this show for a long time and produced our old sports talk show at CKNX for a long time too, MWO Sports back in the day. There we are with the Schmaltz Cup and all the individual hardware that the Barons took home last year. And, that was an incredible ride. And, I think that the thing that I want people maybe to take away from whatever the legacy is that, our program is leaving behind. And you're right, Steve, like, we're stepping away from it, but who knows like what the future holds. Like, there's gotta be some upcoming young broadcasters out there that maybe can help revive it or keep it going. I don't know. That's for the next generation to get. God, I feel old now saying that. I was the next generation yesterday. I feel like it's been 10 years. Like, but that's for the next generation to grab. And I think that, what I want people to maybe take away from whatever legacy we're leaving behind is you should believe in and support your local media. Like, we're in an age right now, especially in this country, where a lot of it is disappearing, and when you allow that to happen, you lose out on like, think about the last 20 years that we just talked about for all these guys that maybe don't have all that stuff recorded or have your voice over them scoring big goals that meant a lot to them, right? Like, if that all disappears, we all lose. So I would encourage people to support local media whenever you can. And any young broadcasters that are out there watching this thinking, hey, maybe it's my turn to step up to the plate. Take the initiative and go do that, because we did that. We had opportunities that, people helped us do that, and we're better for it. And I'm still pursuing a career that hopefully takes me to the NHL one day. And it all started on the microphones of CKNX Jr Hockey for me. So those are opportunities that are open to you. And man, we had some good times.
How is it any different than a player trying to make their way up the ranks?
Yeah.
Right. And then there's also the point of you take, guys who just want to play for the love of the game. They're with their local club. They're playing with some buddies who can put the puck in the net. But if you want to take that next step, it's got to start somewhere. So, I mean, my start was back in Simcoe covering a junior C club at the time, the Simcoe Storm, and I worked on the local cable channel. They were putting together, some games, and we actually had an opportunity to grow it to the point where, the team made the semifinal or the quarterfinals that year, and it was an experience, and it was just a bunch of people getting together to make the best product possible, and the story turned out pretty good.
It did turn out pretty good, man. And I'm always going to be thankful for it, because again, it's where it all started for me. And we've been able to work with some great people, and I did want to pull this out too. That's from a couple of seasons ago. There's the boys, Johnny Colias and myself and you in Mount Forest. We spent a lot of time in that Mount Forest rink, in the latter years, that's for sure. The latter half of my time at CKNX Jr Hockey before moving on to the Storm full time, I felt like we were in that Mount Forest rink, all of the time. They had a pretty good run there, and just a lot of great characters, and Bridgie too, like just a lot of fun times, a lot of lethal drive-through stops that we put together. There was some which we just can't cover on this show out of one, time, and two, shame. We had some unbelievably fun times, man.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you wonder if we could write a short story or a book with several chapters that includes the drive-through, because it was definitely, let's say, a waistband gain between end of February to April. I mean, but isn't that what life is about? The experience that you can create with good people and good opportunity. And I think one of the things that makes it too is everybody comes prepared. I just did a game with Scotty last week in Listowel, and Bridgie, I come up to the table and he's got half a table of notes with standings and streaks, and Johnny K has his big big cardboard box of statistics, and it's just awesome.
It really is, and just an incredible time. And before we move on to start, unfortunately, talking about some Olympics, I mean, Canada overall has kicked it into another gear. We've piled up some golds now, which is nice, but we're unfortunately going to have to talk about, it's Thursday, February 19th, what happened between the Canadian and U.S. women's hockey teams. But before we do that, the adventure's not over yet. Like I mentioned, Junior C playoffs kicking into gear this coming weekend, and we're going to be covering a bunch of games coming up. You and I are going to be in Mitchell on Tuesday, covering that series. There's a bunch of hockey still left before we hang up the mics.
Yeah, and want to make a point to have every team in the Pollock division on air at least once. So that's why we flooded next week with games. So on Tuesday, February 24th, we'll be in Mitchell, Mount Forest, and the Hawks at 8:30. Thursday, we'll be in Walkerton, Bulldogs and Capitals at 8:30. And then Friday, the 27th, in Wingham for the Hanover Barons and Ironmen at 8 o'clock. So that will get, and of course, Fergus has a bye in the first round. So we'll catch up with the Whalers coming up in the next couple of weeks in the second round. For Listowel, as of now, we have 2 games left. February 20th versus Komoka, and Friday, March the 6th, wrapping up the regular season schedule versus St. Thomas. So that's going to end the Listowel run more than likely. They're really behind the 8 ball. Mathematically, I believe they're still in, but that may wrap up the Listowel Cyclones' tenure. So we'll have some final thoughts on March the 6th. And with the PGHL, of course, will follow the Pollock division as far as they can go through March and April here.
Going to be exciting stuff. And again, you can catch all of that on CKNX AM 920 and CKNX.ca. As always, as you've been able to do over the last 2+ decades. Incredible stuff, man. What a ride it's been. What a ride it was for the Canadian Olympic team. And unfortunately, the United States getting their third gold medal at the Olympics, of course, adding to the inaugural women's tournament in 98 that they won in Nagano, and of course 2018 in Pyongyang. And now they can add 2026 Milano Cortina to it. There's Megan Keller, the Michigan native, sliding it past a heroic Henri Desbiens in 3-on-3 overtime. Just an all-time move to beat Thompson and get in there on Desbiens. That'll be played on highlight reels in the United States for the rest of the time. Congrats to the Americans. It sucks. Like, it's a bummer. But, what an impressive turnaround for this Canadian team that, yeah, they were banged up. And Marie-Philippe Poulin, I'm sure we'll get word eventually on, just how severe her issues were, but no excuses. I do believe the better team won here, and the Canadians, we got some work to do in terms of what we do to bounce back from this, and I'm confident we will. But just an incredible game considering in that round robin game, Steve, 5-0 beat down from the States, and Canada had the lead for a good majority of this game, scoreless first, get a beautiful shorthanded effort from Kristen O'Neill, and it's 1-0 until about 2:20 left in the third, and there's Hill Dog. I mean, the legend herself, Hilary Knight, tipping it home, capped off by Keller's OT winner. Canada had that late power play too, that they couldn't capitalize on. I'm sure they'll look back on that, and that'll haunt them a little bit. They got one shot.
They
your
had
thoughts on it?
Yeah, they had opportunities, Ryan.
They had loads.
Marie-Philippe Poulin was in the slot and just shanked it high over the net
in overtime.
The end of the game there. So
Laura Stacey, like,
the U.S. was the favorite team, and really, when you look at what the Canadians' strategy was, they kept, for the most part, the U.S. all the way outside. Like, high danger chances did not come early for the Americans. Canada did a good job defensively and tried to drive their offense off the defense. I thought the Canadians, as the game went on, started to hold on the puck a little too much. Not as sharp with their passing as compared to the Americans. The Americans seemed to move the puck much quicker. And on that tying goal, the 6-on-5, and I looked back on the TV, the U.S. didn't pull a Czechia, put 8 players on the ice. But on that face-off, there was an opportunity for the Canadian winger to clear the puck, and they just fanned on the attempt, and the Americans got possession. You clear that puck, better chance
Who
to
knows?
keep everything out. Who knows what happens? But, you can point to a number of spots during the game where it could have tipped the balance. But Desbiens, to me, was the MVP of Canada for this game. The stops she made, especially near the end, were amazing. And, what do you do? Yes, Canada had experience, but the U.S. had speed, and they just were the better team throughout the tournament.
Yeah, they were. And you got to give props. You got to tip your hat to them. Aaron Frankel was ridiculous. Both goaltenders were just spectacular. I felt crushed for Henri Desbiens. She should be on the $20 bill after doing that. Like, that was outrageous what she did. Aaron Frankel was fantastic. That's a good team over. That's just a good damn team, man. Like, Grace Zumwinkle and Kendall Coyne Schofield and that Abby Murphy girl, she's unbelievable, and what an agitator she can be. Fantastic player. Like, Hilary Knight is a legend, and I did love this too. Like, it's ultimate class. They're hated rivals, but all respect on the ice. Like, there's Marie-Philippe Poulin, the classiest person ever, giving a big hug to Hilary Knight. Hilary Knight already announced and knows that this was her last Olympics. We'll see with MPP. I think a lot of people are anticipating it could be her last Olympics. She is 34, turning 35. She'd be 38 at the next Olympics. Sid Crosby's 38. He's playing. I don't know. and she's going to be mum on that for probably at least a year or two before she decides whether or not maybe this was her last Olympics. You'd like to see her go out with a different result, but amazing for Hillary Knight, who's just been, you're looking at, arguably the two most talented and significant players in women's hockey history, built on the backs of legacies of Haley Wickenheiser and, go down the list. Incredible moment of respect from two opponents that have gone toe to toe in so many big moments.
Well, not only from an international standpoint, but I mean, you look at now, the PWHL, a lot of these players are teammates, or they'll face this out. Like, I mean, they're all interconnected in some way or another. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but at the same time, they laid everything out on the ice today, and I don't think you could have asked for a better effort.
Not at all. Forever proud of our girls. They do a great job every time, and they represent our country with so much pride and dignity. And Marie-Philippe Poulin's the heart of that, obviously. And again, we'll see if this is the end of the Olympic journey for her. The door is certainly not closed, but congrats to Hillary Knight and her teammates. Amazing way to cap off her Olympic career, America's all-time points and goal scorer at the Olympic Games. You referenced this just a couple minutes ago. Let's flip over to the men's side, and what an effort. We're recording this obviously the day before the semifinal matchup, Canada, Finland, and then of course the U.S. take on Slovakia. Like, what an effort by Juraj Slavkovsky and his teammates. We've got a repeat of the 4 finalists from the Vancouver games. So those are going to be 2 big matchups, obviously, but boy, the Czechs, they've got our number at the World Juniors, and geez, they just about had us at the Olympics too. That was scary stuff. Of course, highlighted by the Mitch Marner heroics, but also some controversy after the game in which the Czech team, count them there's 6 guys celebrating what was the 3-2 goal at the time before Nick Suzuki tied it. And if you actually look at the play as it develops, at one point, it felt like half the population of Czechia was on the ice. They had 8 guys on the sheet when the shot was taken that eventually went in. And I just don't know how that's missed. I understand that mistakes happen, and I mean, no one on Canada's bench was yelling about, like, a bunch of people missed it, but the 4 most important set of eyes didn't. And man, oh man, Steve, you think about often, like we just talked about it with our Canadian women, like the what could have beens. If that had stood as the game-winning goal, my God, Luc Tardif and the IIHF would have had a hell of a controversy pie on their plate.
Absolutely, but I will give them props because a lot of reporters were asking them about that situation, and they responded and said, yes, a crucial situation was missed. We've had a meeting.
They didn't run from it.
And how many times have we seen before where it's just crickets from an organization or a league?
Well, how many times does
right?
Gary Bettman go, no, we have the best officials in the world and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, a huge mistake happened. Thankfully, it didn't end up burning us, and we're addressing it, and we're going to move forward. Like, generally, that's all people want. Like, people don't need you to go back, even if they had won that game, Czechia, and Canada's out. Like, I would have been totally fine, as angry as I'd be, and as angry as our country would feel, aggrieved for very good reason. Generally, all people want is for you to admit that something went wrong. And when people don't do that, especially huge organizations like the NHL, the NFL, the IIHF, whatever, that's where people get cagey and are like, come on, like, we can all see, right? So you're right. Like, we do have to get as much of it as, it turned into an kind of an inexcusable play. Sure. You're right. They do deserve props for coming out and addressing it head on.
But don't you find it interesting that at that particular moment, when the shot was blocked and it sprung Czechia out of the zone, that the benches, any player, any official, any media called about too many men being on the ice. Like the networks didn't pick it up until it started showing up on social feeds of people saying, "Hey, this wasn't right. Did I spot
It was
this
after
something
the
on my TV?"
game.
It was after the game. Nobody. So how how much does that show of how engaged people were in that moment and how stressful it was? So I got a funny story for you. A gentleman by the name of John Kastner, who uh, used to be the editor of the Stratford Beacon Herald, has done a lot of stuff for hockey provincially. He's now with Hockey Canada. He's over at the Olympics. He was at the game, and he posted on his Facebook feed about with his Apple Watch and tracking
His heart rate, yeah.
his heart rate, and the comment was, "Go to the Olympics," they said. "Relaxing it will be," they said. He was doing a workout at the moment, of what was happening at that game. But I mean, that's what makes it so good. And when you look at the number of people that are engaged in that particular moment, um, but I will say now, I'm sure any official, if there's a breakaway, one of the first things they're going to look at is, okay, how many people are on the ice, and do a
Yeah,
quick double check.
they're they kind of joked about it, like Kenzie Lalonde and Cheryl Pounder, who are just unbelievable. We're gonna get Kenzie on this show at some point soon. One of the best young voices in the game. She did a tremendous job. They were kind of joking about it when I think when Laura Stacey kind of had a break and the whistle went, and they were like, and the officials were really looking to see what was up. Like, yeah, I think everybody's paying extra close attention now. There's some heads on a bit of a bigger swivel, but again, it's one of those things where like you'd be really peeved about it in the moment, but the funny thing about sports, it's no different than life. There's no certainties, and like mistakes happen, and I know that there are fan bases that are certainly more aggrieved than others. I think about the Buffalo Sabres, and as an example, there's lots of times where your team, our team, whoever's team benefited from a call, and there's lots of times that I'm sure it's amazing the amount, though, like for sports fans, where they don't necessarily love to bring up the times that their team was on the right side of a bad moment. You always remember when your guys got screwed, right? Like those are the ones that jump to mind. I don't often bring up the tuck rule with, Tom Brady and everything, but I hear about it all the time from people. I don't think about the tuck rule. So it's just, I think we all need to relax a little bit sometimes, myself included. But yeah, speaking of, and on that note, Steve, I want your opinion after the game, because I actually think for me, it's not that there was 800 people on the ice when that goal went in. The bigger controversy for me, or the thing that actually made me far more angry than a missed call, was Czechia's coach's deliberation of what he felt went on during the game. I'm sure you saw this. We'll put up the statement for you. My God, in the history of donkey takes, and look, we try and be respectful on here. Like, I know we take a lot of runs at people, and just, usually I would think for good reason. This one, like, I'm making no bones about how idiotic this is. This is one of the worst takes I've ever heard from somebody post-game anything. Radim Rulik, on being unhappy with the referees after the game against Canada, he said, "The referees really worry me. What they're allowing against us is unacceptable. After every game, we send them 2 or 3 clips where they confirm the opponent should have been penalized. I don't understand it. I feel like everyone is afraid to call anything against Canada. We were basically playing against 6 players. Right after, which is awful ironic, Radam, sorry. Right after that, though, he says that, and then he goes, I don't want to make excuses. Sorry. Oh, and then he also said, the video backs me up. They didn't want to give us another power play because they were afraid that Pasta would score again, David Pasternak, who scored on a power play that. And I just look at that, and that's where I would love to get into a back and forth with this gentleman. What about the brutal missed interference on Crosby in the second prior to Radko Gudas laying a goon hit on him that ultimately hurt Crosby? You had 800 people on the ice. Like, really? That's your determination? You think that you guys were playing against 6 players? Like, Radko Gudas could have been penalized 80 times during that game. I look at that as a head coach, Steve, and I think that's just such loser energy, and I couldn't stand it. That made me far angrier than a missed too many men call.
So, and how many times do we catch ourselves it's a default argument, right? It's the
refs. We lost because of the refs.
We lost because of the refs. Well, you let Nick Suzuki go in on you at the end of his shift. He forechecked you, stole the puck, set up the offense for the tying goal, in which he stabbed at a puck that was going 3 feet wide and tipped it between your goaltender's legs. Like, it took an unbelievable play to tie that game up. Then it took an unbelievable backhand by Marner to put it in the only spot that it'd get by and go into the back of the net.
He went through 3 players, Steve.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, I think that statement lessens the effort that your team put forward.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, it wasn't our guys laid it all out on the ice. They poured their heart out, and the other team made a spectacular play that won them the game in overtime. So I don't know why you would. And again, it makes it that much worse when you get the go-ahead goal and you clearly had an infraction that they missed. So, I mean, it's sour grapes. And do you think the Canadian coach today after the women's game is going to go to the stand and say, there were 3 hooking calls on rushes of ours that weren't called and this and that? No, I mean
I think we would all be disappointed if Troy Ryan did that. Like, I'm far too emotional in the moment. It's been a few hours for me now, but like in the moment, like I would be a terrible head coach as much as I'm sitting here blasting Radim Rulik. Like, have a little bit of sense of decorum and what just occurred in front of you to have this type of deliberation. Also, by the way, and no one's going to feel sorry for him, and they shouldn't. They hacked and slashed and tried to punch Tom Wilson 800 times during that game, trying to goad him into a fight, and he didn't do it. So, like, if you really want the game called by the letter of the law, and we could argue till the cows come home, Steve, about the referees letting them play, what do you let go, managing the game. We could do that all day. But if you really want it called by the letter of the law, Radim, I mean, where are all the calls on Wilson? The brutal interference on Crosby. And look, you just get up, and if you're the better team, most of the time you're going to come out on top of it, even if you have 8 guys on the ice for a go-ahead goal. So I just, like, you bring up the women's game, like, in the moment, like the hit from behind on Aaron Ambrose, and you know how I feel about hits from behind, Steve. I think all of them should be an automatic 5. They'll go, oh, well, they'll call it a 5 if she's hurt and they stretch her off the ice. I firmly believe at every level of hockey that a hit from behind in the numbers like that, where a player goes face first into the boards, automatic 5. The players would hate it. I don't care. If we want hits like that out of the game, we got to actually start punishing it. It should be an automatic 5. And Troy Ryan could have went out and been sour grapes. And, Canada didn't score on that power play that they got from it. But like, how lame would it be if Troy Ryan or Marie-Philippe Poulin or Aaron Ambrose to come out after the game against the States and go, yeah, you know, that really should have been a 5. If we had a 5-minute major there, we win that game. It's like, we don't know that. Our only goal came shorthanded. They could have scored shorthanded. We don't know, right? So to come out after a game like that and say that, especially given that goofy too many men thing, I just looked at that and thought, like, I don't think that I want that guy back as my coach. Like, he should have just came out and said, and it's easy for me to say standing here in my living room, but I wish he'd have just come out and said, props to Canada. Like, we battled them. We're proud of our country's effort. We're going to come back and try and get after this thing again. They got some good young players like that are going to carry that team forward for a while. Look what they're doing at the World Juniors, right? Like, I just hated it. I couldn't stand that. Well, you know who never would have said something like that? And he could have numerous times. Jason Brooks never would have said something like that to us after a Cyclones game. I'll tell you that right now.
No. And yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of class to, and that's the thing is, you know, we all live by the 24-hour rule, or we try. I think it's, you know, tough to go into a media zone because people want clips, but don't make it easy for them. Don't make it easy for them. I mean,
seriously, dude.
Yeah. So, anyways, on to bigger and better things. Finland.
Not going to be easy.
On the 20th. Not going to be easy. Probably a different game, though. I don't think the Finnish wall will play as heavy as Czechia did. Probably a little more stick work, a little more puck possession type of game, which I think really is better for Canada. Not that there's going to be any physical play, but I think from a skill standpoint, Canada matches up with them very, very well.
I think so too.
So, and from a U.S. Slovakia standpoint, I mean, that's going to be interesting. The U.S. played Sweden with such a smothering game, but they didn't create a lot of offense. Like Markstrom was able to see a lot of pucks, and the Quinn Hughes overtime was like dirty.
That's just all world.
That's all. Yeah, I mean,
that's Quinn Hughes.
That's why he's there. So I mean, who knows? I mean, Slovakia's had some tough head-to-head in the round robin because they were in a pool with Sweden and Finland. So they're battle tested. They're going to be ready to go.
Absolutely. Like, Slovakia should be going into that matchup with belief that they could win. You're in the semifinal. Like, of course you should have belief. And I know what people would like roll their eyes and say, well, look at that U.S. team. Well, that's why they play the games, right? Like, you know, the 8th seed sometimes beats the 1 seed, the LA Kings, and go down the Kitchener Rangers that one year. Like, you know, that's why you play. If the favorite was just supposed to win, then this isn't the WWE where it's scripted or whatever.
And it's also one game. It's not a 7-game series. The better team doesn't have a chance to regroup. I mean, it's you run into a hot goaltender that limits you to 1 goal, and they score 2, you're done. So it'll be entertaining. I'm sticking with the favorites, Canada, U.S. I think we're on a collision course. And it's not that those two teams are looking ahead. I think it's that big win over Czechia for Canada. I think has refocused them, and they'll be ready to go. My prediction: Crosby out tomorrow, but we'll be in the gold medal lineup as long as nothing is super egregious with his injury.
We're hoping so.
Yeah, and there was some talk, I think, about lines today that I was listening to. What do you think of that McKinnon, McDavid, Celebrini line? You got to keep those guys together.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. So we'll see how it all works out. We're hoping for better things for the men for sure. It's been a great show. We're hopefully Clarkie's having fun on vacation. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of the Olympics, and we'll be back next week here on Instigating with Clarkie and Drury. Remember, you can find the show on all your favorite podcast apps, Rogers TV, YouTube, and be sure to follow us online at Instigating Pod. We'll see you next week.